people to really get them up to snuff on ways to respond to those tough questions. But that's a great point. Yes.
Yeah, hi. Is it possible to give to your organization today?
I hope so. I'm not going to stop you. Yes, please. Live Action, and it's a tax-deductible gift, and we would so appreciate any support you can offer because we need your support. This is a really important time for that. Thank you. Yes.
So, what do you say to someone who says, I am pro-life? What's the exception of
Yeah. Right. What do you say to someone who says, I'm pro-life, but not if there's rape or incest or something? I would first ask them, well, why are you pro-life? What's wrong with abortion? Bring it back to that question. What's wrong? What do you? And then ultimately that question is really another question. What is the unborn child? If the unborn child is an unborn child, nothing justifies killing it, even if its father's a rapist or its father is this horrible man or whatever it might be. That does not mean you take it out on the innocent unborn child. And then the other thing you can talk, especially when it comes in with the question of rape, and we have stuff for this on our website and there's some great resources, but another thing I always say is if you have an abortion after a rape, or if you encourage an abortion after rape, you're not healing the memory of the rape. You're not taking away the violence of the rape. You're adding a violence to a violence, and you're making another victim. So that's not the way to deal with a horrible situation, doing something else that's horrible and making another victim of that rape. So that's another aspect too. You're never going to hear a woman who's been raped, who's had her child say, I wish I could go back in time and abort that baby. That's only going to help them heal and help them bring some redemption to that process. There's a lot of great testimonies about that. Yes, in the back.
What do you say to people about the morning after pill?
The morning after pill? Our position is that anything that is an abortifacient, and the morning after pill is an abortifacient, anything that's an abortifacient, which means it kills a newly created, a new human being, a unique, totally beautiful human being, anything that does that is wrong. It's an abortion. It's an injustice, a human rights abuse. And the morning after pill is a drug basically that kills a newly developing embryo, a little developing human person. So we're against any abortifacient. Yes.
I was just curious about the legal aspect. I feel like, isn't that illegal to go in and, without the knowledge of them, and would you get into any trouble?
Did we get into any trouble, and is it illegal to go undercover and to film them? It's a good question. What we do, we have never been criminally convicted of anything. We've been threatened to be sued by the abortion industry, but we've never been actually sued. What we do before an investigation is we consult with a legal team, and we ensure that everything that we do is legal. And in 35 states, it's perfectly legal to do undercover investigations. And we have every right as citizen journalists to do this work. And so we make sure that we cover our legal bases because we don't want any legal technicality to get in the way of us getting our results out to the public. So that's something that we definitely look into, and we cover that base. Yes.
Have you heard that the FDA is now going to require graphic warnings on cigarette packages? What do you think the chances are? We could get a warning on the door.
A taxi driver was complaining to me about the cigarette cases that are going to have people's lungs on them, or like something like that about. That's astonishing. Well, if the FDA, just imagine this, there were campaigns against the tobacco industry, many of them using visual media by citizens over the past 30 years, especially before the health risks of tobacco became well known. Well, those campaigns are just beginning and need to happen with full force, especially using clever visual media in the pro-life movement, because abortion, because sadly birth control, not many people realize this, causes a lot of physical health problems for women. And this information is being suppressed by the very organizations that pretend to help women. Susan B. Komen, for example, can you believe this? This pro-women, anti-breast cancer organization gives some of its money to Planned Parenthood, which is making more breast cancer by pushing more abortions and birth control, hormonal birth control into women. So this is more information that we need to research. We need to become educated ourselves, experts ourselves, understand this ourselves, so we can pass this information on. So I believe that there will be campaigns, and we need to make the campaigns showing the health effects, the health risks of abortion and hormonal birth control and other abortifacients. In the back in the red, yes.
You just mentioned, Cindy just talked about that Susan now, and you just mentioned now. So are you and other people making, they're saying there is a correlation between abortions and breast cancer. So you see a lot of women, that's the pink ribbon,
Yeah.
breast cancer, but how many of those women had abortions?
Right. Yeah.
Because they're starting to come up with a link. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's definitely a link that's been established and peer-reviewed. Yeah, the question is, well, the information is being squelched. One way to squelch something is just not to talk about it. That's probably the best way, just to ignore it, pretend it doesn't exist, and that's often it. But I think, again, it's a matter of just getting that information out there, and also the hormonal birth control link, which is so unknown, sadly, to many women, that needs to be known to breast cancer and to other major health risks. Even the birth control companies will talk about these health risks, but they won't always, it will be in the fine print somewhere, but of course it's not going to be on the cigarette pack, so to speak, or it will be on the outside in a big warning. So there's a lot of things that we women need to better understand about different products that Planned Parenthood and other organizations are advocating.
And then a part of that too is abortion to breast cancer, but then it's more specific. Interrupted pregnancy.
Right. Right.
So that's going to be squelched too.
Right. When you abort your first pregnancy, I think it can, triple, or it can just hugely increase your risk, because your body's preparing for the baby, and every part of your body's preparing for that baby, and then it's cut off unnaturally. So, yes.
A statement, then a question. The statement is, I watch a lot of Fox News, and they're fair and balanced, and so you have two people on either side of the debate. And it's hard for me because usually I feel like one side of the debate is a moral idiot. And so my question is, how can you have any kind of moral compass if you believe in killing unborn babies?
The question is, how can you have any moral compass if you believe in killing unborn babies? I mean, it's a good question, but at the same time, they think they have moral compasses. I mean, the reality is many of these abortion workers, like Abby Johnson, who resigned from a position as Planned Parenthood director in Texas. Now she's a pro-life advocate. She thought she had a moral compass. She thought she was helping women until it became more and more clear, and she saw an ultrasound-guided abortion, that this was not helping women and that this was killing children. So again, it's reaching out not just to women who are considering abortion, but also reaching out to many people who are abortion workers. Some of them, I would say, can be pretty sick and twisted, and there's something almost spiritual, negatively spiritual about their involvement with abortion. But many of them think that they're doing good work. They're just very misguided. Something's twisted in their minds. They need to be prayed for, and then they need to be reached out to. Yes.
One thing, you spoke a lot about abortions like this, but what do they do with the embryo after the abortion? I think this needs to be brought up to the young.
Yes.
Now, what happens when you do an abortion? You live with the psychological effect, but what happens to the embryo, this beautiful life? What do you do with it right after they cut it out?
That's great grounds for an investigation. What do they do with these different children at different ages? Some of them very small, some of them pretty developed. They can be, all through 9 months. It's legal. You can find a way. What do they do with the bodies of these children? And, what happens to them? And then also, what happens in other areas where women are, sometimes children that are very, very small at IVF facilities can be used or, given away for research. What happens to them? I mean, there's a lot of children, dead and alive, that could be being experimented on in our country. Sometimes those experimentations are paid for by the government. You remember California paid $3 billion, voted $3 billion towards embryonic stem cell research. What embryonic stem cell research really is human experimentation. So this is, again, something that needs to be visually exposed, and this is one of our areas of research. Yes?
Tell them about the movie Blood Money, where they could all buy and watch. It's a DVD that's recently out.
There are great documentaries out right now to educate yourself more about the abortion industry. Go to our website.